So it's into hour number 3 at the open mic, and it's your turn to get up on stage and perform. And in front of you is an audience, and the only way you can describe it is the soul is dripping out of their eyeballs because they would rather be anywhere else. And you get to the end of your set and you're thinking, how am I going to do this set justice and finish with a bang? Rather than just blowing myself up and putting us all out of our fucking misery, I am going to give you 3 stand-up comedy techniques that you can use to close your set. The first one we are going to talk about is how to finish with your best joke. That's considering you have a best joke, but even if you don't have a best joke, I'm going to show you a few techniques in how you can turn an already existing joke into a closer. Then we're going to move on to tip number 2, which is going to be using a callback. That's right, you can even use it in a very short set. It's always going to benefit you. I'm going to talk the theory on how to do that. And then we're going to finish this long rant of a video with saying, very simply, a thank you and a goodbye. I'm going to highlight a few differences rather than just cutting the set short and saying thank you. I'm going to show you how to wrap it up while saying thank you and maybe put a little nice spin of charisma on the end of what is hopefully an already decent set. So I would urge you to try all 3 of these exercises and figure out which one suits you best and stick to it and get really good at it. Also, before we get into it, if you are out there and you are struggling and every now and then you're succeeding and you are recording all of your sets, I would love to do my best to help you out. I, on this channel, am offering a service. It's a positive critique of your stand-up comedy sets that are filmed in front of an audience. If you have any amount of footage up to 10 minutes long, I will gladly check it out and point you in all the right directions. I've been doing this 24 years and there's not a comedian I cannot help out. That is even including you. So if you have some footage, drop into the description box, check out the email, give me a shout. I'd love to hear from you. All right, before we get into the tips, I want to give a little bit of theory on how I am approaching this episode. When we think of a closer to a set, we have to think that this is what it means. It means that nothing can come after it. Whatever you choose to do at the end of your set cannot be topped. It's a moment that there's no point really in going anything after that. You're not going to go, oh, I got one more joke, because it would just ruin the moment that you created. It's much easier to think of in the terms of a different kind of a show. Let's say you do a little juggling show. You're at some circus event. I've no idea why we'd want to be, but sometimes it happens to people. And you see a guy juggling 3 balls, right? The bloody excitement of it all. And then he goes on to juggle knives, and then he might get up onto maybe a unicycle, and he finishes juggling fire on top of a 10-foot tall unicycle. Okay, well, great. That's obviously the finale. There's no point in him coming down off the unicycle and doing a card trick. It's just not going to work. It's not going to be a good idea. Finish on a high. And that's what we can do in stand-up comedy. Okay, you're not going to bring a unicycle in, but we're going to do the same thing. We're going to make our sets in the structure that when they get to the end, there's a sense to the audience that nothing is about to come after this. And that's what I'm going to highlight, and using the techniques I give you, the easily applied techniques I give you in this video, you're going to be able to add that on to the end of your set. So let's get into it with tip number 1. Which is to use the strong material. Now, I understand it's easier said than done. You've always heard this saying in stand-up comedy, always finish with your strongest bit. It's not always the right way, especially if you don't have any strong bits. And even if you do have a strong bit, well, you don't want to put it at the end of your set because it might not belong there. Perfectly fine, then choose some of the other material, some of the other tips I give you. But if you do have a standalone strong bit that you're happy about, here's what we're going to do to make it a closer. So you get up on stage, and usually, for the vast majority of the critique videos I've been seeing, usually the comedians that I'm talking to in this channel have a setup and a punchline. And that's kind of the rhythm they have. And the further you progress as a comedian, what you're going to start doing is having a setup premise and multiple punchlines. What's called a tag is a secondary punchline. And then the better comedians than that even have a third punchline on top. And what you're doing is you're cementing your belief in the foundation of the first punchline. Meaning, whatever you say to get the initial punchline, you're just digging the hole deeper in that belief. And you have a little pause and you dig it deeper again. So you're trying to push the idea of the punchline even further upon the audience to get more of a laugh. Because if we open up a box and it's a present inside the box for the audience and they all agree that they like what it is, would it make sense for us to further dig deeper in the box and find more presents rather than going quickly onto another topic and now opening a different box, right? That makes no sense. So here's what the idea I want to create at the end of a set. Because most of you have a setup and a joke premise to your set, what I want you to do is start playing with the idea of adding multiple punchlines, but you're only going to do it at the end of the set. It works out well for you because it's great practice to start trying to push more punchlines rather than just moving along with your set. And it's also great practice, it's a great place to do it, is at the end of a set. So if you have setup, joke, and little pieces of information, all of a sudden at the end, you're going to put whatever punchline you can have tags after, whatever punchline you can double up. And this is, of course, also called the rule of three. It's a version of the rule of three where you don't do one punchline, you do three. You're only going to do that style of comedy at the very end of your set, for the very last joke. So whatever joke you already have existing that you think that joke normally goes down well, put it at the end of your set and write 2 more punchlines after it. And give the audience a little bit of space. Give them time. Do your punchline like you always would. Give them time to laugh. And just as the laughter is dying out, just before it gets to 0, hit them with the tag. Hit them with the secondary punchline. Gets a nice hill of momentum again. And then hit them with the third. And you can repeat sentences again. You can you don't need to be uniform on this. You can do it in whatever style you want. If you feel that you need to be stuttering, if you feel you need to over-exaggerate the pregnant pauses, whatever way you see fit, this is about playful time on stage. Okay, so fair enough. Maybe the first time you try this, you mightn't get it right. But that's great because it's at the end of your set. The very fact that you're ticking the correct stand-up comedy theory boxes by doing the rule of 3 at the end of a set is going to stand to you, even if the joke itself isn't all that great. If you have consistent jokes throughout your set, and you have the setup and punchline method, and all of a sudden you get to a setup and 3 punchlines, it's just going to feel natural to an audience that that's the end of a set, even if the material isn't all that strong. So that's the theory behind finishing with the strongest piece of material. But I do already have said it. I know some of you don't want to go down that road because you don't yet have the belief in the material to finish that way. Perfectly fine. Let's say there's tip number 2 is to use the callback method. Now, let's say you have a bit of material that you're really proud of in a set and it normally goes down very well. But it's in the middle of the set or it's at the beginning of a set and it's more personal about you and it's kind of bouncy and people always like to respond to it. So you can't put it at the end. It doesn't make sense. Perfectly fine. We can kind of use the same technique as number 1, which is to finish strong, but we can do it with material that happened earlier on in the set. We can link whatever topic you're closing with, we can just do a callback to something else. How can you weave in, how can you connect the topic you covered earlier on that the people liked, they were laughing at, so that's what they're telling us, right? If the audience are laughing at anything at all, that's them telling us as a group, as our audience, that we like this arena that you've put us in. We like the information you've set us up with, and we like the way you're not going to stand with the laughs. So they're happy to stay there. So when you leave it, it's perfectly acceptable to bring that topic back, because not only are you bringing it back in a playful way, getting a laugh out of the fact that you connected something that we all lived through earlier on, you're also bringing back the joy we had when we were discussing this topic. So we will reward you with more laughter. That's how strong the callback is, and it's used by every comedian you have ever seen in your entire life. That's not to say it's a cheap tact or an easy thing to do. The more you do it and the earlier you start doing it in your career, the better you're going to be in a shorter period of time. It's not easy, and It's fun to do though. Try and weave in a material from earlier on any way you can to the topic you're closing with. And a little trick to this, let's say you have material about growing up in a particular neighborhood, and that's what goes down really well. And that's earlier on in your set. And later on, you're talking about a car you're driving. I wouldn't finish with it, but let's say that's the topic that you're finishing with, right? It's a shit example, but let's say we have, I don't know, whatever. How do we connect one to the other? Well, a real easy trick is not to finish the topic that you discussed earlier on in your set. Let's say you did 3/4 of it. So rather than doing the whole topic and all you have to say about it, all you have to write about it, and then try and make new material that you have to connect in over here. No, that's advanced. You can do it if you want, and you can give it a try. But how about this? How about do 3/4 of that topic and move on to a different transition? So when you get talking about the cars, you know what material you have to connect with the idea of talking about the cars. It's the material you left out earlier on. Now it's much easier to try and figure out what is going to be the area you connect with. Is it going to be a play on words? Is it going to be some absurd connection to do with things, inanimate objects that are you going to put personalities on? The freedom is in the creation process, but the theory is this. We connect something earlier on the set that they all like and connect it to the topic that we're closing with. And also, again, this creates the illusion of a finisher. Nothing can go after this. All right, so then we move on to number 3, the final one, which is just simply to say goodbye. That was my set. I appreciate you guys. Goodbye. Now, there is a difference between saying, all right, see you later, goodbye. That's me. It's fine to do if the set was really strong. If the set was super strong and you got consistent laughs off like 85% of the people in the room for the entire duration, well, then you can kind of be a Robbie Williams on it and go, okay, that's me, bye, and storm off the set. And it's okay, it's fine. But I think, and most of you guys are at the beginning level of careers, right? Because if you're setting out in an arena, why the fuck are you watching this channel? But most of you guys are starting out, so great. If that's the case, you're going to be in front of grassroots or open mic comedy, and the people who come to support it, not just the acts that are in the room, but the people who come to support those nights, they do exist, all 5 of them. They love grassroots comedy. And the people in the room who are also comedians love comedy. They're all new to it, just like you. It's perfectly fine. If not, it will make the audience feel good, if anything, for you to stop before your set and give a brief moment, a brief explanation as to just how happy you are to be able to perform. Like, remember the time when you were too nervous to go up on stage, and then you went up on stage for the first time, you shit your pants a little bit, and then you did okay. You didn't do as bad as your biggest nightmare allowed you to believe you might do. It wasn't all that negative an experience. And now you might have 50 open mics behind you, or 100, or now you might have done a few paid shows. Well, that whole ladder that you climb, that's fun when you're working at it. And anyone working at it is in that room. They're either supportive of the people working at it, or they're working at it themselves. If you turn around to an audience and very briefly at the end of an open mic say, guys, I just want to say, I just love this. I love the grassroots. I love the fact that I'm learning. I love the fact that I can come out here and stand in front of you and just do a few stupid jokes and see what works and see what doesn't work and figure out who I am up here in front of people. And thanks for listening to me. That's my time. I'm out. I mean, there's not a person in that room who's not going to think that's amazing what you just did. It's also easy to do because it's honest. You just speak to them honestly for just a few moments, just a few seconds at the end of the show. You don't need to go on for as long as I go on for, because I overrun every gig I've ever done. But the idea here is to speak in a way that's honest, that's humble, and you love stand-up. What does that do outside of just finishing nice? What does it do? Well, it teaches you how to speak naturally on stage. It teaches you how to speak with emotion, because the emotion is true. You have a love for comedy because you're watching this video, because you're getting out there and you're trying to develop as a comedian. But you have that in common with every single person in that open mic room. Every one of them has the same love that you have. They all have the same belief in themselves. They all have the same frustrations at themselves for not being able to connect a particular piece of material to the audience. They all have the same frustrations that they can't get more stage time. They all have the same opportunities. They all have the same stresses outside of performing. They all have responsibilities. They all have to sacrifice something in order to be in that horrible room that you're performing comedy in. Well, all those things are true. So talk about being able to connect with an audience. If you just mention briefly your love of stand-up and the sacrifice you're making to get there, they all live through you. They're all doing the same thing. And it teaches you how to talk honestly. So therefore, if you keep finishing with that, sooner or later you won't need to finish with just your love of comedy, because it'll be written all over your face, because you'll have done this way of finishing so many times. I would nearly urge you to give this a go and forget briefly about the techniques of finishing with a callback or a strong set, because just a little bit of honesty on stage is going to benefit your pacing. It's going to benefit your confidence. Because when you figure out that just being honest in front of them and just being yourself is really worthy, and they're going to respect you for it, because it is worth it. You do have something to say. So the quicker you start to be honest and riff in an honest way, and what's better material than just what, you don't have to be funny in these few seconds at the end. You can just finish it in a real nice way, and then make the beginning and the middle of your set as nice and as polished and as consistent with as many laughs as you possibly can. Those are the 3 techniques of the day. I really do think if you implement the theory of anything that comes at the end cannot be followed. That's the theory that we come from. Once you come at it from that angle, you're going to be all right, and you're going to finish the set making everybody feel good. And that's another thing it's about. Don't offend them at the end of the show. Don't finish with a moment that should have something after it. Finish with a definite closer, a definite moment that can't be topped, and have it be charismatic, so that the shit MC on that night can come up to the stage and drop the ball for the next act. See you in the next video.